Hello, and welcome to the Lucidus podcast, where I explore everything because I know in my heart everything is connected to everything else. And I also know there is an infinite, unbounded potential within each of us. And that potential is fascinating to me because I feel like it's not unattainable, like I can't reach it. I feel like it's out of reach for me. I've always felt like that, and I don't know why. I've recently been listening to an audiobook. It didn't start with you. It didn't start with you. And why I think it's so, and there's nothing in it that I don't already know, but I feel like I'm in a place where 15 years ago, I was introduced to all this epigenetic stuff. It was so fascinating to me. Also diving deep into ancestral trauma, working with indigenous ways through that. But it's like I've come full circle many times, but as I'm coming full circle again, just the deep realization that so much was in play the moment I was born. And I'll tell you how that happened. So I know I mentioned, when I go to the gym, there's a theater room. So sometimes when I'm working out, I'll work out in the theater room and there'll be a show on. So I'm working out the other morning and the show is, I don't even know what it was. I think it was called Han Solo or Solo. It was a Star Wars. And it was the story of Han Solo before he was Hans. Oh, that was it. Yeah, it was like a few days of Star Wars. Because I caught that one, but that was I'm confusing that, or maybe I was. Oh, I can't remember. Okay, it was a Star Wars one, and I don't know the whole Star Wars very well, but it's at the end of the movie when Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia are born, and it was so fascinating to me to feel viscerally what it was for those two to be born into this enormous play of energy. Like so much was already in motion the moment they were born, and they had nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with it. They were simply born into this energy that so many other people and events had put into play, and they were just suddenly they're born into it. And so their life begins. And it just hit me more deeply than it ever has. I've talked a lot about ancestral trauma. I've talked about epigenetics. I've talked about so many things, but it's always been very contained. Like I have always felt like those were like more scientific, I should say, like very contained bits of information or pieces of whatever. And in that moment, I realized these words we have for it, ancestral trauma, epigenetics, we are using what for me, I feel like we're using these very sort of nice words to describe something that's cosmic. When we talk about ancestral trauma or epigenetics, we're talking about centuries of motion, millennia of motion, hundreds of thousands of years of people in motion, human, beings of all kinds in motion. And then we drop into it and suddenly we are part of this huge, huge cosmic, universal, many interdimensional forces at play. And we suddenly are supposed to know what to do. And we're supposed to fix it, or heal it, or anything it, and so it was just so profound for me to see these two little babies born, and I know it's not real, but it is real, Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia, and I see them born and I think, my God, like so many forces are already in play in their lives and they have no control. They didn't start it. they're not going to end it, and they have so very little control over so much of what happens. So it kind of made me sit back on my heels, so to speak, and go, whoa, like all the work I've done to understand epigenetics and how to change the course of my life, and all the work I've done with ancestral trauma and healing, and all I've done to try to change the course of my life and my lineage. And just for the first time realizing it's like the tiniest thread in a tapestry that's cosmic. So it was humbling. There was also a relief, because I've been very frustrated lately that after so many years and so much work, that I'm actually starting to see some pretty big shifts and changes in my life, just personally inside of me a lot, but it's also starting to exhibit in the outer world. But I'm starting to see it play out more in the people around me. And that, in a way, kind of breaks my heart. I thought that some of the work I could do would protect them, especially my kids. And I can't. I don't believe I was even meant to. But yeah, and sort of seeing the fractures that have happened in my life that have been so painful, moments where relationships have fractured, whether that's within my familial unit or within a friend unit or other communities. Like you just never, they're all so fragile. They're all so fragile. It doesn't matter how much love is there. They're all so fragile, and you never know when one of them, then there's going to be a fracture that puts a disconnect where there used to be great connection. So I just am in a place where I'm just deeply humbled by the enormity of it all. Also, like, eyes wide open at, oh, my part is so small. Not that it's insignificant, and I do see all the ways how important it has been, but still, it's just like, it's like when you look at the Milky Way galaxy, and you can't even, like, Earth doesn't even exist, our planet doesn't even exist in this one tiny galaxy of which there are, like, so it's like looking at the macrocosm and the microcosm at the same time and holding them both equally true. So where I'm getting with this is a microcosm. So that's the macrocosm. It's just, my God, I was born into this enormous play of energy, and I'm just this tiny little dot of energy in this huge, already set in motion play. And I mentioned this on my last podcast, The Alchemy of Transformation. It was interesting. I've heard this before, and it's been interesting. I've done a lot of work with transformation, This was one of those moments where I'm listening to a podcast, and suddenly it's like the message is like, this is for you. Grab some markers and start drawing. I wish the picture I made is really quite beautiful, but I didn't have a color printer, so you can't really see much. But I want to explain a few things about it. In hopes that, I guess I want to explain it. This is why I want to explain it. I'm not here to explain the thing. Look it up online. Alchemy of Transformation, 7 stages. Read it. I think the power that I have in this is making it personal, to help you hopefully drop into a more personal space in your stages of alchemy of transformation. So as I was listening, I grabbed out these colorful markers, started like making these cool things to to understand the parts of the transformation where I get stuck. And that's what I realized as I was listening. I was like, there have been times where I've made the full transformation. I would say there are times where I've gone through and I have yet to finish. And it's like I sort of start another area of transformation in my life. And maybe I get all the way through on that one, and then I start another one, and then I get partway through. That one stops, and then I move over to this one. And so I would say I have various areas of my life in various stages of transformation. And I was curious because I'm ready to finish some that have sort of been on pause, waiting for me to understand what needs to understand. I don't know. And I don't have more words than that. So the first two stages, from stage 1 to stage 2, is a really fascinating stage. The stage 1 is called calcination, and stage 2 is called dissolution. This is definitely a stage where I've experienced it many times and I struggle. So how I want to describe this is literally through the caterpillar, the stages of their metamorphosis. So scientifically, they've looked at this, or biologically, I should say. Well, either way. So let's say the caterpillar, we're going to call those the old cells. The old cells. So when the caterpillar spins a cocoon and it has all of its original old cells, its original cells, all of those cells need to become something else. And so what happens is these new little cells grow and they literally attack the old ones. They need to kill and destroy. They need to destroy the old cells. And this battle goes on. This war goes on. The old ones are not going to die. They're not going to be beaten, so to speak. And so they fight back. And so this war rages inside this tiny cocoon where these new transformative cells are attacking the old ones, trying to turn them into goo. And the old ones are like, no way. And so the war rages. And if the new cells are not powerful enough to destroy the old ones and turn them into goo, then it doesn't happen. The cocoon, it remains a cocoon forever, and the metamorphosis never happens. Butterfly never happens. So there have definitely been times in my life where I have felt this new life, these new cells coming in and needing to destroy what I am, right? But they're just turning me into goo. I don't, it's actually a very scary part of it. And I fight. I don't mean to. And it's nice to know that the butterfly does it as well. The caterpillar, is fighting for its life as well. Life, there's a certain amount of, even though life is always changed, there is a certain amount of stasis that's always fighting to remain the same. And both parts are needed. So stage 1 to stage 2, that's definitely a part where I can spend a lot of time fighting the new, fighting like the old, fighting the new, old, fighting the new, old, fighting the new. And I would say sometimes the old has won, and I haven't moved past that. So I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I feel it. Like there have been times where I just was not ready. It didn't happen. So we stopped there. That transformation didn't happen, moved on in life. And now that I think about it, I do know I can think of times when that didn't happen, and then months or years later, it did. So that the new cells were strong enough to turn the old cells and turn me into goo and begin that cycle. Okay, so then there's stage 3, which is separating into the different parts. Stage 4, which is like coming together in a new way. Stage 5, fermentation. All I'll say about that one is the other ones don't. Those are once I'm into 3 and 4, I'm like, I'm pretty good. Like, got it. Yeah, we're doing this. Okay, it can be very fascinating. Actually, those can be very fascinating stages for me. The stage 5 fermentation. I would say I can become impatient there. Like, what is going on? Like, it's just stupid. I just think the whole thing is stupid. That's usually how I feel about stage 5. It's stupid. Okay, then the stage 6. It's called distillation. And this, I would say, is my Achilles heel. So distillation, it's also, some people call it the eagle stage, because the eagle is soaring high, or it's diving into the depths. And this is the stage of struggle, where it's literally called cycles of struggle, where you are soaring high, like, look, I'm doing it. It's also, sometimes they also equate with light and color, because it's where the butterfly is pretty much done, only it's got to break out of the cocoon. So it's struggling inside, struggling to break out of the cocoon. Here's the interesting thing. If you see a butterfly struggling to break out of the cocoon and you help it in any way, it never gets the strength to fly. It'll come out, open up, look beautiful, sit there and die. So what needs to happen are these cycles of struggle, where you need, again, like the eagle, you soar, you're like, I'm doing it, like I'm soaring high, and then you just plummet and dive back down, where you're just like, it's not working. This is for me, my doubt stages. It's not working. I usually think I'm crazy. Why did I ever think I could do this? What? It's not going to work. Why did you ever think that was this is not a good idea? Like, why are you going this way? And then suddenly you'll kind of break out of that struggle. And then you're like, oh, I'm doing it. It is happening. Like, it actually is happening. And then, so these cycles of struggle. And I don't honestly know what it takes to finally, it's almost, as I say it, it's like my chest sort of, I feel like this strength kind of pushing out. And it's like, it's almost like belief, but it's not mental. Like, it's not, my mind doesn't need to believe. It's almost like my whole being needs, or in order to finish the cycle of struggle, there's a moment where it just literally does, like, break open. It's not one part of me, it's the whole part of me. It's like a collaboration. It's the word that comes to mind, like a collaboration of all the parts that breaks open, receives the light, acknowledges what's next. And then the seventh one is called coagulation. And the words I put for that one is crystallizing freedom. I mean, it's literally where you just sit and wait for your wings to dry and look around and take in this new world. And when you're ready, you take flight. But there's not a lot to stage 7 other than just acknowledging. But I feel like there's a fine line between stage 6 and 7, between the distillation, where your struggle, the cycles of struggle finally lead to an epiphany, a moment of acknowledgement of, I've arrived. No more struggle is needed. Isn't that funny? I think, honestly, I might get stuck in the struggle. And I don't realize that I'm done. Like, no more struggle is needed. I've broken out of the cocoon, and just, it's time to dry. And acknowledge that I'm now a new thing, no longer a caterpillar. I'm some new thing, and I can now be that thing. That acknowledgement is definitely a moment where you acknowledge that not only do you not behave in in ways that you did in the past, but you don't need to. They just don't need to anymore, that's been fascinating for me recently, to see myself behaving in ways I never have, ways that I really, I don't want to say admire, but ways that feel right, feel healthy, feel like best for here, and I just don't need to behave in those other ways. And I couldn't even say why. I couldn't even say why. I mean, I suppose the butterfly kind of looks at the leaves and goes, I wonder why I'm not going to chew on those anymore. I don't know. I'm just not. Flies off to find a flower and goes, oh, I guess I do it this way now. I guess I do it this way now, which feels right. Right? I have a proboscis. I should, I'm going to pollinate flowers and live in the world of nectar until such a time that another transformation occurs. So I just wanted to touch on that. That all of these, and again, the microcosm, macrocosm, that all of these tiny, this alchemy of transformation, all of these transformations that we do on an intimate, personal level, I just have so much compassion for and so much appreciation for and so much the mystery and the curiosity. It's just so beautiful what we're capable of doing. And at the same time, at the macrocosm, I have so much compassion for, so much humility for, because what is at play is so big. So big. And we're just a tiny little sacred drop of energy. And it's both beautiful what we can do, and it's also heartbreaking that we can do our very best and absolutely amazing, and yet we can't. Sometimes we can't save ourselves, can't save anyone else. Life, these forces are so powerful that sometimes no matter what you do, you can't hold certain things together that aren't meant to, and they break apart. And you just go, wow, I tried so hard to hold that together. It still breaks my heart that I got a divorce. I look back and there's no way I couldn't not have. I knew in the moment I knew before I made the decision, it's going to break my heart to do this because I'm going to hurt the people I love the most. And it did. It hurt my children deeply. It hurt myself. So it didn't matter what I did. I couldn't hold that together. And then there have been other times where I so desperately not wanted something to happen, not wanted something to come together. And the forces were so powerful. There was nothing I could do to keep them apart. So I think that's where the humility comes in, is that we continue to do our part, our piece, and we continue to just sort of head bowed and just say, I don't know. I understand so little. So little. And I used to think, I've said this so many times before, but I'll say it again. I used to think love was enough. And it isn't. Love is incredibly powerful, but it doesn't make something happen or not happen. It is definitely something that I, practice giving love every day, opening my heart to all beings and sending that beautiful energy out. But it doesn't guarantee anything. And again, I know I say this all the time, but it just continues to be affirmed in every way. I'm not in charge. I don't get to decide so much of what happens around me, even in me. That's the other thing, is this transformation. I love that quote, the caterpillar sitting on stem looking up at the butterfly, and it's like, you wouldn't catch me dead doing that, right? You never know who you're going to be when you go through these transformations. You never know who you're going to be. And that also takes a measure of really self-acceptance, becoming, that's another thing there are parts of me that I do I admire now. And I'm like, gosh, I call parts of me she, because I'm not quite sure if it's me yet. And I'm like, gosh, she's a badass. Like, she's like holding her own, and she's not pleasing a lot of people in her life. And I'm like, that's tough. Like, she's good. She's also not rude. She's not mean. She's not angry. She's not hateful. I was like, dang, she's just like, this is me. That's it. Just, this is me. She's not looking around to see if everybody likes it or doesn't like it. And she's noticing, oh, some people like her. And I go, oh, some people don't. Huh? Like, I never thought that I would be that way. And there have been times where I'm like, maybe I'm mean. Like, maybe I'm not being nice. I just have to thank God for my therapist and the people in my life I really trust. And they're like, no, you're just being a person. You're just being you. You're just literally going through life. Some people are going to like you. Some people aren't. You haven't even said anything to those people. So the fact that they don't like you, well, that's, what are you supposed to do? Run around and please everyone? Anyway, my point is, you don't know who you're going to become. And so it is scary. And sometimes that new one steps out and you go, oh, okay. And there are definitely other parts that, it's not like they're all wonderful, but they can challenge the old perception. For sure. And maybe that's the coagulation phase, is when, as you begin to open your wings and let them dry, you go, oh, this is what I look like. This is who I am. This is how I behave. Okay. Kind of like, okay, I guess we're going to do this thing. Kind of like testing out the wings before you take flight, so to speak. I guess I would say, as I'm saying that, I haven't understood the 7th stage till just now as I'm saying that. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes more sense, where it's like you're unfolding, and as you unfold yourself and go, oh, you're discovering the unfolding, the discovering, the drying of the wings, kind of practicing, oh, what does it mean to be? What does it mean to be whatever this is I've become? So I just wanted to take a moment and share that, because as powerful as we are, we don't control the universe. And the universe, cosmos, I don't even know what word to use anymore. We do not control this reality. We do not control this dimension. And yet that doesn't make us nothing. So that's it. Short and sweet today. It's Mother's Day. So just a shout out to all those that mother. So many ways that we mother ourselves, mother others, mother many, many things. So, and take care of yourselves. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.